YouTube? Well, just recovering from my week off. My week off. It wasn't that wee a cough, I was coughing like mad. Anyhow, so this is Pink Jim Deacon, which I think I was playing in the live stream a couple of weeks ago. This actually bought off a guy who played it in a death metal band. Which I would do that. I would turn up my death metal band playing a sparkly pink bass. Yeah. So, you'll notice the last couple of weeks, me and my pal, it's actually that blue Jim Deacon, which I've been meant to give back to him. They're awfully good. It's like they're sort of surprisingly good. And again, it's just a snobbery thing, isn't it? I remember when before I even played the guitar, I'd actually bought a guitar yet, and I had a picture of a magazine on my wall in my bedroom of a Jim Deacon Strat, and my pal was like, "What the hell you get a picture of a Jim Deacon on the wall for?" And it was like, "Just a Strat, isn't it?" And he's like, because he had one, and it's like, I remember them being the one that everyone had as a beginner guitar, like we're talking 90s, these kind of things. I think these are maybe very late 80s, very early 90s, something like that. And they're really awful good. Definitely I would say more your classic vibe Squire than your normal ones. You know, it's got this particular era. I've got the amazing tint gloss neck, painted headstock. It's not really going to show up. This is a sort of a pearlescent pink. It's not just pink. It's not that horrible pink that Encore I had last week, was it? It was a horrible sort of Pepto-Bismol pink. This is a bit more classy. It's not quite Barbie. It's a bit 80s and classy. So really all I've done with this is I just gave it a clean. I needed a wee bit of wiring and stuff, but I did that last week. I scraped most of the stuff off the fretboard. Now I've cleaned it, put new strings on it. And what we've ended up with is a good solid P-bass. I'm a huge P-bass fan. You'll know that every time I ever do a bass video. It's like P-bass is the one, really, into it. Can't really think of where this isn't the right bass to play. It is Pink, yes. Could I use it in the Black Sabbath band? Pretty much, yeah. I'd imagine guitarist would maybe be like pure Jim Deacon. You know, there might be some. There might be some more Jim Deacon stuff coming next week. Actually, there's a chance actually meeting the guy who is Jim Deacon. Could be interesting. Yeah. So actually, there's one of these on Facebook Marketplace just now. I think is it maybe even that colour, and it's just. People remember them being. I remember them being cheap and going, "Oh, it's a Jim Deacon." I remember buying one. It was one of the good ones. It was like that. It was like that. Apart from it was candy apple red. And I remember going and buying a West Tone Spectrum. I think I paid 40 quid for it. It was somewhere down in Kilmarnock. And I've got this other one. This is my brother's. He was just a great guitar. Blah blah blah. I thought this one was like up here. Not really. I'll give you a tenner. And he's like, fine. I paid a tenner for it. Not really thinking what it was. I don't know if that one made it to be a Buckycaster or not. This is a few years ago. But as far as I'm aware, this obviously is a rolling thing which might change. But see when it's got this type of logo on it, where it's sort of it's not handwritten, it's printed, but it kind of looks like handwriting, and it's got like that one there doesn't have a matching headstock, but it's got this sort of sparkly finish. They're awful good. You can tell by looking from a distance at the neck. You know, it's got that super glossy thing going on, which is just great, which is just so much nicer than that horrible powdery shit. You know, the sort of, it's got a modern satin feel. Ugh. I'm not a fan of the modern satin feel, although I will have to say it was one of the things that disappointed me a bit when I got the FGN, that the satin neck, but it's not powdery. It's satin, but it's not powdery like the way cheap guitars are. There are different ways of doing it. You know, I think maybe on that they maybe put on very little lacquer and then sand it back or something, whereas I think the powdery ones they just go, don't bother painting it. We could save £1 building this bass and we could tell them it's got a modern satin neck profile on it. Yeah. So playing through Marshall MB150, no pedals or anything. And we've got just an awesome P-bass. Afford a little bit more volume, weird playing with new strings. All my basses have got ancient strings on them. This one's actually pretty much in mint condition. There's virtually no wear anywhere on it. It's all nice and shiny. It's like pure, yeah. I think what the guy who I bought this off said, but I don't know, I assume he picked it up at a jumbo sale or something for 50 quid or something, 20 odd years ago or 15 years ago, and he used it in his death metal band for a couple of gigs until he snapped a string. And that was it. And then basically I don't think he touched it since then. It wasn't dirty, but it was just like, that it'd gone sort of matte. It wasn't shiny anymore. But it's quite a rarity for me buying a guitar that doesn't just have years of skin and shit on it. It wasn't minging. It was just needed new strings. And a bit of a clean, 10-minute clean. So Jim Deacon, I've made it a little bit onto my radar a bit more now. I'm going to have to try some of the later on ones. I know there's ones called Deacons which look really cheap. Don't know if they've got anything to do with where these came from. Apparently, according to the guy who imported them, it was that they were just getting absolutely swamped with really shit guitars, late 80s, early 90s. Really shit guitars, and they were thinking, well, why, rather than get the distributor has given us these really shit guitars, why don't we start our own conglomerate? So they all congealed together and chipped in and started up their own brand, which I think is an amalgamation of, I don't think there was anyone called Jim or Deacon, but there's it's a made up name using bits of everyone else's names, I think. So it wasn't like one guy that imported them. That's how they kind of distributed all over the place. So it's kind of like a buy into this cooperative type thing, and what they did there was they chose the specs of the guitars and they chose the factories that built them. So like what happens, I always talk about this when new guitar companies start out. They start out with their best intentions and going, we are going to make a P bass. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a couple hundred quid, but it's going to be better than anything else you can buy for a couple hundred quid. It's going to be approaching your Fender, a quarter of the price sort of thing. And then once it's been successful for a couple of years, they start going, right, prices have gone up, it's like inflation and stuff. Well, we'll try and we want to keep, the bass the same, so we'll just keep the same price, keep our £200 price. So we'll just put slightly cheaper bits on it, use less wood, and then once they do that and they get away with that for a couple of years, they go, oh, hold on. Why are we selling good things? We could sell these basses for 200 quid. They're amazing. But how many people really know this? What if we churned one out for half the price and then sold it for 200 quid? We just make twice as much money. Oh. Yeah, so basically I think that's what happened. I'll probably get disputed this when I meet the guy, but so there's so many companies that start off, you get an early one, they're pure amazing because they've got to try and break into the market. Once they're in the market and people are known, they're famous for it. Stag are the same. The early Stag Strats are really good. The ones that have got a metal plate on them, they're fine. I remember at one point having two Stags, both black Stratocasters. Both, for intents and purposes, look exactly the same. And I'd imagine it probably cost the same, like £129 or whatever it was. Probably cost the same, but one was maybe 10 years older than the other one. And the difference between them was just like the older one to build cost 10 times as much as the newer one. You could just tell by looking at it, the wood was so much better. All the hardware was so much better. The actual construction was so much better. They've just every year they go, well, we can make more money if we just take out this, find somewhere cheaper to get that, and then not specify what kind of wood. Just wood. Make it just wood, no. And you just end up with guitar-shaped objects as opposed to ones you could actually play. I would have no issue actually playing this. As I said, I'm not sure. I'm a guitarist, maybe a wee bit snobby in the Black Sabbath band. He'd probably the only bass I've ever turned up he objected to was my wee red Encore. So I'd be like, I don't normally say anything, but you can't come in with an Encore bass. Watch me. And boy did I play that Encore bass. Like we 30 and scale. He described the Encore bass as, it's a sort of bass when you're round at your pal's house having a few beers, and he goes, I'm just going to put this in the bin, do you want it? And you can't be bothered carrying it up the road, so you just go, nah, and then just put it in the bin. What people are these? Monsters, really? You can't put a bass in the bin. You can't give baby booze or put bass in a bin. But I mean, actually, I know a bass player probably would absolutely love this. What's the band called again? The Harlem Globetrotters. It's basically he's in a band where it's just all the songs are about dicks. Basically, apparently the girl who sings it's a bit of a sex fiend. Apparently, I don't know. I'm not judging. So it's like the Bobby. It's all about the Bobby, and this is kind of sexual pink, isn't it? I'm sure there's internal organs and various bits dangle that kind of are this sort of colour. So this would be perfect for that band. I'll have to be honest, there's not that many interesting things you can say about a P-bass, because it's like the Telecaster of the bass world. It's the first bass. They invented this, and it was like that. This is just what a bass has been since 1952 or whatever. I know technically, originally it didn't have the humbucker pickup, and the scratch plate wasn't this shape. So I think it was like, I don't know, 1956 or something. They made the scratch plate this shape and they put the split pickup in it. Apart from that, it's pretty much that's still what a P-bass is. It's totally recognisable as the first ever bass. Really, it's also before the Stratocaster. This shape was the first time this ever appeared, so just got it right first time, pretty much. Drum. Problems that comes with the Jim Deacon thing is the same thing that all of your sort of more budgety guitar lines come through. By the time I started seeing these, so I was saying this is 19, I wasn't really playing until sort of 2000, really, 1998 or something. I bought my first guitar, so I was they were getting to be 10 years old. So by that point, everyone had Jim Deacons. They were everywhere because it was whatever the £129 Strat was, the popular one. Everyone had that, and then as like a lot of these guitars suffer from, you had people who didn't know what they were doing, messing about with them, or just never adjusting them at all. So it'd be quite common, you'd get a guitar and it'd be like a pair of Jim Deacon's, not very good. And it still had the original strings on it, from 8 years ago, sort of thing. And you're like, it's never really going to be enough. Really, any guitar's not going to be that good if it's never been adjusted, and especially with a bass as well, because this piece of wood here, when this was built, that piece of wood was a straight piece of wood, and for 20 years these strings have been pulling it into a bow this way, so you need to adjust the truss rod to pull it back in again. So there's quite a high probability if you do pick up one of these, it's going to need set up, because it's, well, I'm saying, I don't know how much they were new. I think about 199, 150, something like that. Maybe this will be the deluxe one with the fancy paint. You could probably get the one that did the painted headstock for 150 quid new, something like that. And then when they're at that sort of price, so it's 150 quid, say 3 years down the line, you're not going to spend like 80 quid getting it set up. You're just going to buy another bass and you're just going to keep playing it, because the thing about a bass is you can still play a bass with ridiculously high action. It just feels a bit shit, but you can still play it. So that a lot of them are going to suffer from that kind of thing. The first thing I was just worried about the truss rod not working. Truss rod's totally fine. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I might package this with that wee 25 watt Fender bass amp, which is a really good bass amp, and you've just got the ultimate bass setup. Really. Okay, you're not really going to be able to gig with a 25 watt, but you could at a push. If you're playing the pub and there's a sound guy, just mic in front of the bass amp, done. And it's totally going to be totally acceptable. And proper vintage now. I mean, it's got to be 20 or 20. It's got to be nearer 30 than 20 years old. And again, I remember being told this before, like Antorias were never really that good. In fact, none of the old Japanese ones were that good at the time, because obviously one of the things you really want to do if you're buying a Fender custom shop at $8,000 or something, that wood's been aged. That wood's, it's been super, whether it's been artificially aged or just mega dried out, or it's from old stock or something. So it's got 20 years of drying out and turning, like the fibres in it turn to crystal and all this crap, which you're not going to do on a budget couple £100 guitar. But now it's had 30 years of drying out and shit. It's started to turn into stone, you know what I mean? It really has. But this is just a lovely bass. I don't think I can't keep it. I've got so many basses, it's ridiculous. But I mean, it's kind of like one of those as a curio. I think there's probably an element of people not wanting to sell these because of what they went for. I mean, I believe Westtone went through a similar thing. All these guitar companies do. Once, when they come out, they're amazing, everyone loves them. And then once they've been about for 10 years, they become old, nobody wants them. Because people remember seeing them in the paper for 50 quid and all that, with bits missing where it's been dropped or smashed up, or somebody's had a great idea of trying to put Stratocaster pickups in it, or something stupid, or it's like they thought it was a great idea to try and relic it with a hammer. It's got to survive all these things. This one totally has. This one's, I don't think it was kept in a case. The strings were pretty rusty. I think it was just sitting in a corner basically, and the guy had robbed the knobs for another bass, I think, because it didn't have any. So these aren't the original knobs. Not really sure what the original knobs should look like. I just put telly knobs on it in my parts box. They look the part. I thought it was kind of weird. It's got a black pickup. For some reason, it should have a white. Obviously, you can buy covers on eBay for about £3. Should it be white pickup? I'm not really sure. I would maybe look at it a little bit more girly and a little bit less hair metal. Mind you, if this was early 90s, no, the 80s didn't finish until 1992. If you ever look at like the Freddie Mercury concert, or from 91 or anything like that. That era, it was Armani suit, mullet, spandex, pearlescent pink guitar, which we think would be very 80s, but that was still the 90s. They were still like that. It's just the young cool folk like me weren't interested in any of those things. But again, we're talking about basses. I've been rabbiting on for so long, it's ridiculous. I just think the P bass is the best bass you can get. I really don't really have any reason for having any other ones. Okay, I'm currently using the Washburn Force 4, which is basically a P bass, but with a bigger, higher neck scoop. And the Ibanez Roadster, which is a P bass. It's like made by different folks, so they didn't copy it quite as much as this one, so it's like a different headstock shape. The Roadster's got two aside headstock, which I actually quite like. That's it. Really chunky, thick rosewood fingerboard, really dark as well. Like, not like the Rose. I think also if you go back to 30 years, wood wasn't at the same premium. They didn't think they were ever going to run out of it, so you could just buy good wood quite cheap. I think that's why the rosewood board on this is proper super dark rosewood, not stained or painted or any of your fancy shit. It kind of looks like ebony. I've not really done it. I cleaned it with a fretboard. I didn't do anything else to it. Just a case of wiping. It just comes out as a pure dark black. This reeks of a quality instrument. See if it just didn't say Jim Deacon on it. If it's a make you'd never heard of, it'd be worth an awful lot more money. But then again, maybe Jim Deacons are going to come back and be the driving force. The problem I think a lot of this stuff, I'm just having a rant now, is back in the day, people used to use their own guitars when they were in a band, whereas one of the things that happens now, I've noticed this going to download and stuff like that, once you've got like an album out or something, you're doing a big tour, that's when the companies approach you. It's like, oh, hello, I'm from Gibson. Alright, yeah. You don't play a Gibson? No, I like my yeah, it's up here, right, well, but we'll give you £10,000 if you play a Gibson, and we'll give you some guitars. Okay. Not making any money from selling records now, you only make it from merchandise and sponsorship deals and shit like that. So that's, you kind of, when you look back in the 70s at Top of the Pops, you did see people playing guitars on, they didn't get Jim Deacons then, but you did see folk coming on with like Yamaha SGs and Washburns and all that stuff, because it was their guitar. They had their money. Like, okay, maybe it was a record company advance to go and buy proper professional equipment, and they bought the best one, which just didn't happen to be a Fender Stratocaster. It's like, so that, I think there's an awful lot of that going on. This does have the deluxe, the vintage look to it, but I mean, honestly, I think I'll buy a Harley Benton P-Bass. Just don't find a Jim Deacon one, even if you're buying them at the top of what they're worth, like 150 quid or something. It's billions of miles better than a Harley Benton. It's like, what? It's not even in the same league. It's a proper instrument. Again, a little bit of the having Jim Deacon written on it, because everyone remembers him. It's a funny one. Can I use a pink bass for a Black Sabbath band? I was going to say that, it's like, yeah, it's kind of, it's got that, compared to get the guy who used it in a death metal band, it's got that sort of glam rocky thing going on about it. Or for the gays, if you yourself like men, maybe buying a pink bass is just going to get you some men. I don't know. Not going down that road. So how many times can I just say what we've got here is an awesome P-Bass, well above average P-Bass, down to the point of being good bass. So on my rating scale thing, it's a 6 out of 10, which is, how does it compare to like a Mexican Fender? It's a lot cheaper. And I would argue it's better than any Squire Classic Vibes or anything like that. Not millions of miles away, but better than them. And it doesn't say Fender on it, so it's not as good as a Fender one, if that's the thing. But I think 6 out of 10 is good. 6 is easily giggable, brilliant. There's not that many guitars I rate higher than a 6, to be honest. It's got to be something special. I'm looking at the wall just now. That's a 9. 9's as good as you can get. That's just perfecto. That's 7 or an 8. That'd be a 6 as well, because it's basically this, apart from... I mean, I'm not talking about this. This rating thing is not... How do you rate it? Under £200? I'm talking about out of all guitars you can get. So, no upper shelf. On the same... This is on the same scale as a... Okay, I've got a 1961 P-Bass. Okay, it's possible it's going to be like a 9. You know what I mean? For one that's probably worth 20 grand. You know, yeah, that's probably a 9. It just doesn't it? I'm not going to go for the money, because that's what Harley Benton live on. Oh, it's a great value for the money. Oh, it's a good guitar for the money. It's like, but what's this for the money thing? Is it a good bass? Oh, it's a good bass for the money. As I said, is that a good bass? Well, all the strings buzz like fuck, right? The action's out here, but you can get some notes out of it. And it only cost a tenner, so it was a good bass for the money. No, it was a shit bass that you paid a tenner for. You know, actually, I've got my wee tenner. That wee Encore I was talking about earlier did actually cost a tenner, and it's a good 5. Yeah, 5 still giggable and good. Rehearsable. I mean, I don't know when you get to the point of is it good for learning on, but I mean, is it good for learning on? Fucking yeah, man. It's like you're never going to need another bass if you're learning to play on this. What I would suggest, if I'm probably going to sell this, whoever buys it, look after it, because you might not like it to start with because it's pink and it doesn't say Fender on it. So don't, I'll relic it with a hammer and try and sandpaper and I'll cover it in sticker. Don't do these things. Keep it and use it as a bass, and then see in a few years' time, once you've had a couple of Fenders and Classic Vibes and all that, don't sell this one, keep it. And you'll end up doing what all of us do, and you'll go back to it and go, actually, it's kind of better than those ones. I mean, I did that with my Aria Pro, my ZZB bass. The new Epiphone SG was out. It's an SG bass. Oh, it's an EBO. Oh, so I sold it, and I used the Epiphone for about a year, and it wasn't. I was like, going, this is an Epiphone EBO is pish. It's nothing like as good as the Aria that I got rid of. And it's like, but the Aria was pointy, and you can't play Stone songs on that. You totally can. I would now, but it's like it didn't fit the look. But just keep it looked up and look after it. I don't necessarily mean super look after it. I just mean don't willingly hit it with a hammer and leave it outside in the rain and these sort of things. You know, have a gig bag to take it to the studio. Don't just carry it and fling it in the back of the car. You know, just small things to keep it good. It's lasted 30 years so far. Been brilliant. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get worth more as well, because eventually the bubble is going to burst and people are going to start realising that buying something, how are guitars going to be? They never really thought about this at the time. Like, seeing if you go back to, I don't know, like, when was Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, 1970, whatever, playing as Les Paul, or 1971 or whatever. Well, it's 58, so those guitars were only like 10, 15 years old. Like, anyone in the 60s and 70s had like Fenders and Gibsons. They were only 10, 15 years old, because that's all how long they've existed for. So they didn't know how long these things were going to last, or whether even rock and roll would keep going, or whether, you know, music was going to be, oh, there's this guitar fad, you know, like skiffle. You know, it's like it lasted about 5 years, and then who knows what skiffle was now. You know, it's like, but all that stuff's still here, and it's still the same. It still makes the same fucking guitars. It's just that now they've been really honing down, and they're really good at making them as cheap as you can. You know, you get kids from some country You get paid £1 a week sort of thing to hammer together the crappiest wood you can find with the cheapest pot metal parts you can. And yes, and you can, oh look, you can buy a new guitar for £100. Doesn't it look great? Like in that photo, it does look good. Yes. Does it play well? Don't know. How long is it going to last? Don't know. If it was going to deteriorate, look, I'm talking about Marlin guitar or something like that. I was actually talking to Blacktooth Fox yesterday about this. He's got an Encore that's got the Bendmaster bridge, which is kind of like a cheap version of a Floyd Rose, because Floyd Rose had the patent for it. So the other types of double lock and tremolo, you know, like, oh, we want a double lock and tremolo so you can go whoa, and there's no way they ever did that, and now they've just crumbled to disintegration. They don't exist anymore, the actual bridges, and because it was a stupid shaped home. And where have Marlin Sidewinders gone? They used to be, most of the guitars you would see for sale were Marlin Sidewinders, and what's happened is they've just turned to dust because they were shit. Same age as this. This hasn't turned to dust. It's not going to do anything in 30 years' time. It's going to be better because it'll have dried out more, but it's just basically still going to be the same bass. Decent quality and rocking. So looking forward to my live stream tomorrow night. I'll possibly play this again. Don't know. Just get myself back into it. It's like even now I'm feeling a little bit weird just from being. I mean, I was totally out the game for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Like I awake for like half an hour a day or something. The rest of the time just pure conked out. Still got a bit of a runny nose. Still got a bit of a sore throat, but don't feel like I'm going to die anymore, which is always a good thing. So I need to take this over to Scott, so we'll probably have a bit of a Jim Deacon jam. We'll get him, he can use his new blue one, which is from, I don't know, I was going to say the same range. I don't know if it's the same range. I do think it's weird that one doesn't have a painted headstock. That would have been rather cool. I'm a fan of the painted headstock. Huh? Ibanez has that one has a painted headstock. That one doesn't. No. Yeah, that's a personal choice thing, whether you like the painted headstock. I do. I prefer a maple fretboard though, I think. But then again, it might not look right on this one. Also, the other thing with Jim Deacon is now it's now going to get to the stage where it's only people my age that kind of remember them. So if you're younger, if you're 20 or something like that, that could say Paul Reed Smith on it. Doesn't matter. It's just like, oh, what's that? Some other thing. Where they made? I will probably find out. I'd imagine Korea. Don't know. I mean, it's not going to be American or Japanese, but it doesn't matter where something's made. It's how much time, how it was spec'd, and how well they built it. But I would have thought this would be a £400 or £500 bass now, with whatever make you're going to put on it. It just doesn't have that. It feels like a guitar. It's like a real one, kind of. It's not just a case of copying it as oh, it's a copy of a P bass. That's fine. It's P bass shaped. It's the same scale length. It's got the pickup. Yeah, but it feels like a real one. It doesn't have that sort of oh. When you pick up and you go, oh God, it's yeah. You know, you could stick your if you stick your thumbnail into the wood, it dents it. You know, none of that shit. Half an hour talking pish. Love you all. Catch you up.